Hi, Kate. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Elisa Lippincott, and I am a Senior Product Marketing Manager on Microsoft's Security Incubations team. Welcome to our webinar, Get a Grip on Critical Threats with Microsoft Defender Experts for Hunting. Today, I'll be joined by my colleagues, Maria Young and Steve Lee from the Defender Experts team. I'll cover security challenges and a quick overview of Microsoft Security Experts. Maria will introduce us to Defender Experts for Hunting and its capabilities, and Steve Lee will take us on a deep dive with a couple of real-world attack stories that show the power of our service, and then we'll wrap up with a Q&A. So quickly, security organizations it's getting more and more complex. According to a recent study, for every 2 cybersecurity jobs in the United States, a third job sits empty because of a shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. I haven't seen the 2022 numbers yet, but in 2021, there were more than 66 known zero-day vulnerabilities, more than 1 per week on average, and twice that of the previous year. And it's not a surprise that businesses are looking to do more with less and need help from a trusted advisor. A recent analyst report stated that in the next 3 years, 1 out of 2 organizations will rely on security providers to fulfill the need to hunt, defend, and respond to threats in their organization. And we are defenders ourselves, and we bear the great responsibility of protecting our customers and work together with fellow defenders to make the world a safer place. We help secure upwards of 650,000 organizations, and countless users rely on our services every day. Being in the trenches in the wake of some recent high-profile attacks has enabled us to use that experience to collectively elevate our defenses for the benefit of our customers. We track more than 40 active nation-state actors and more than 140 threat groups representing 20 countries. And you can see our signals at work. We process over 43 trillion security signals each day and use them to mitigate threats in real time. And for one example, we blocked 32 billion email threats last year alone. And we believe that this scale of our security signals and the visibility and intelligence that we provide helps our customers. So we've been listening to customers and market needs, and so back in May, we actually announced to Microsoft Security Experts comprehensive set of first-party managed services that serve your security needs. Our experts are basically now your experts, and we have 5 offerings depending on your needs. Microsoft Defender Experts for Hunting, which is now generally available, and what we'll be covering today, is for customers who want Microsoft to help them proactively hunt for emerging threats in their environment. Microsoft Defender Experts for XDR, which is slated to enter a broader preview this fall, which is technically now, so it'll be coming soon, is a first-party managed detection and response service that helps augment your SOC operations for incident triage, investigations, and response. Microsoft Security Experts for Enterprise is for large enterprise customers that want us to do it for me and fully manage their security program. Microsoft Security Services for Modernization was created for customers that want to leverage us and our best practices while ramping up new products or a modernization project. And last but not least, Microsoft Security Services for Incident Response basically takes our industry-leading IR service that has a deep expertise in dealing with ransomware and nation-state actors to support customers before, during, and after an incident. And now I will turn it over to Maria.
Thanks, Elisa. So now we're going to dive into our Defender Experts for Hunting service, which, as Elisa mentioned, just came out on August 1st. Launching this service is a great step towards supporting our customers at scale to defend using our tools, and now also with our people and our intelligence. So let's start by talking about what data our hunting experts hunt on and how they proactively protect the customers. So one thing that's really unique about our Defender Experts for Hunting service is that it hunts across domains. It hunts across Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Office 365, and Defender for Cloud Apps. Another critical point is that aside from analyzing across all of these products, it also has a human aspect to it. And we're finding in our research that humans are critical to detecting some of these real world cyber threats. Steve is going to get a little deeper in a minute on what our threat hunting looks like and how it works. But basically, at a high level, our threat hunters are taking all of those signals that Elisa mentioned before, the 43 trillion threat signals every single day. Our hunters are taking those signals and they're seeing and adding context and painting a story of what might be happening here, what they're seeing, and they're painting a full picture of what's going on with these attacks that are really difficult to detect. So if you take a look at the slide, you'll see that the Defender Experts for Hunting helps to provide this full picture using all kinds of telemetry. Some of these include network info, process events, sign-in events, URL clicks and attachment events, email delivery status, cloud application activities. Those are just some examples of what we're looking at. So in summary here on this slide, our experts are hunting across this diverse telemetry across the entire Defender environment. So once our hunters find something that they believe might be potentially suspicious or they think you need to be aware of it and take action on it, they'll send you what's called a Defender Experts Notification, or DEN. Next slide, please. So what do these Defender Experts notifications, or DENs, look like? Well, when the hunters find something notable, they will proactively send a Defender Experts notification to your Defender portal. This will be specially tagged with Defender Experts so that you'll know that it came from the Defender Experts for Hunting service and not from the Defender product itself. These are not alerts coming from the product. So these Defender Experts notifications will contain some background on what they found, a summary, why you should care about it, why they think it's important for you to know. We use the MITRE ATT&CK framework, so it'll show you where along the kill chain the threat was relevant, as well as a timeline of events and severity levels. It'll also contain some recommendations for what you need to do to quickly respond and remediate these items. So that might be something like running a query or changing a Defender setting. But that is all of the information that these Defender Experts notifications contain. I want to also mention that this is a 24/7, 365 days a year service. So even when your security team is on vacation or holiday or it's the weekend, our hunters are always hunting and sending these Defender Experts notifications. Next slide, please. Okay, so what happens if you receive a Defender Experts notification and maybe you need some more context, you're not quite clear on what they're telling you, or maybe you started trying to do the remediation steps, the recommended steps to protect yourself, and you got stuck? Well, we have this feature called Experts on Demand. There's a little button that says Ask Defender Experts, and you just click on it. It'll bring up a box that's shown on the right here where you can fill in your question, and this will connect you to an actual threat analyst. It's a person, it's not a chat bot, so it'll start a bi-directional email thread with a threat analyst. And I want to also mention that this isn't just limited to Defender Experts notifications. You can really ask anything cybersecurity related here. So for example, let's say you're on Twitter and you see a news article about a threat that's targeting your industry. You can actually ask about that here, say something like, I saw this threat that's targeting my industry. How can I protect my organization? And they can consult with you on things like that as well. The way this works is that on the first of the month, you will receive 2 of these Experts on Demand queries. And if you don't use them, they will carry over to the next month, but they expire after 90 days. Next slide, please. So the final feature of the service that we're going to show you today is the reporting feature. So the reporting dashboard is meant to show you what our Defender experts for hunting have been doing behind the scenes in the background to find these threats early and help you protect your environment. So some of our customers do not receive many Defender Experts notifications, and that's actually a really good thing because that means that our hunters didn't find anything suspicious in their environment. But in that case, some of the customers are saying, I haven't received any Defender Experts notifications. What am I paying for here? What is the value of the service? So that's where this reporting comes in to show a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on. So this is a monthly reporting feature. You can see this one is September 2022. It'll show you how many threats we hunted on, how many we analyzed, and out of that, how many we sent Defender Experts notifications for. It also, again, shows along the MITRE attack kill chain where the threat was relevant. So this is where you can see everything we investigated and the details on what we found. These reports also serve as a great dashboard that you can use to report up to your leadership. Next slide, please. So I know we just went over a lot of features, but just to sum it up, our threat hunters are hunting on the back end of your Defender environment. If they find something notable that you need to be aware of, they will send a Defender Experts notification to your Defender portal. If you have questions about that notification or anything cybersecurity related, you can open up an Experts on Demand query. And then finally, the reporting feature that we just went over to show what's happening monthly behind the scenes. As Elisa stated earlier, this service is now generally available as of August 1st. It's only available in English at this time, and it's only in commercial cloud, no GCC, GCC High, or DoD. The requirements for using this service, you must be using at least one of the Defender products, preferably at least Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Defender for Office. Those are the ones where we tend to get the most telemetry from in our hunts. And then there is a 100 or 1,000 rather minimum seats. So now I will pass it over to Steve to take a deep dive into how this hunting works.
Thank you, Maria.
Sorry, Steve, before you keep going, I just want to make everyone who joined late aware of our Q&A, which is aka.ms/MDEXQA. So this is the place where you can ask your questions today. Thank you. And now, Steve, go ahead.
Thanks, IK. All right, so let's take a deeper look at Defender Extras for hunting. And when we say hunting, what do we actually, what are we doing behind the scene? And so kind of as mentioned here, Microsoft aggregates security data across tenants, domains from broad and diverse spectrum of companies, organizations, and consumers globally. With over 43 trillion signals visible to us per day, and yes, that's 43 trillion per day, as Elisa mentioned before, and leading cloud scale and AI capabilities, that helps us correlate, contextualize behaviors and indicators to help discover and help our customers focus on the most hard to detect threats. Next slide, please. So in this unique visibility, it really empowers us to help our customers on these challenging attacks. So our investigation on the threat actor at Microsoft, so for example, we call Nobelium, showed that attacks these days are really cross-domain, and it's no longer enough just to hunt on devices or endpoint type of telemetry. We've designed specifically our managed services with that specific core principle in mind to go across domains. And so these are some of the things that you can see here. So we start by continuing our focus on device compromise, however. So things like ransomware attack scenarios and things like that that are still heavily prevalent these days, but will expand to new domains informed by the signals and intelligence available to Microsoft. So if you think about things like identity compromise, identity phishing attacks, credential theft, and brute force, that leads to account compromise. These are things that we're going to be able to detect upon with these cross-domain signals. If you think about device to cloud pivoting as seen with Nobelium, correlating activities or attacks that start on-prem and move to the cloud, right, and vice versa. And so it's being able to track those types of lateral movement within, those types of on-prem to cloud scenarios really help customers to detect, ultimately like things like cloud application breach from malicious activity or applications that get our stealth or maybe spoof that are spoof applications, and maybe ultimately goals are unauthorized access to applications or exfiltrating data. So we see these kind of cross-domain types of scenarios. Office 365 tenant compromise, detecting Office and compromise, or maybe things like business email compromise, any sorts of configuration changes that could be used to conduct email compromise, or again, exfiltrate data from a customer's Office 365 tenant. And last but not least, of course, like generally cloud data theft, both from what we can see in Office 365 and other cloud applications, to help customers really understand the scope and volume of potential unauthorized data leaving the organization. So these are the complex cross-domain attacks our customers are struggling with the most, and where we can make a difference, and we'll keep evolving. These scenarios will keep evolving as attacks evolve. Next slide. So what do we exactly mean when we say proactive hunting? Let's take a deeper look here. We're not just looking up IOC data against your environment. Our approach is differentiated. So for us, it starts with the unparalleled access to data and intelligence across emerging nation-state attacker e-crime activity, new vulnerability data, things like new observed attacks, tactics, and techniques, as well as cross-tenant context and much more. That is when we reason over the data and curated by our experts to help drive a hypothesis-led hunting strategy. It's then fed into our cloud scale hunting automation platform. It's the same platform that powers our Microsoft Defender products to find emerging and suspicious activities with rich context in your environment. Now, these are the tip of the spear detections. So required analysis, investigation, and prioritization by our AI and experts help to reveal new and emerging threats. So if you think about the indicators or the low level types of events or detections that we're trying to uncover here, it's the very tip. And so looking far left across the MITRE attack to detect these as soon as possible. So this is happening 365, 24/7, combining our data, intelligence, automation, experts, and AI to hunt on your behalf. Now, if they determine that there is a valid threat, they'll send a Defender Experts notification that Maria showed as an example to your Defender portal. And I want to mention too, there's Microsoft Defender 365 APIs at the customers that you guys can use to flow this information into Sentinel or any other SIEM or ticketing system that you might have. Now, this is a continuous cycle of hypothesis-driven detection informed by our unique visibility and intelligence. Let's take a look at two real-world examples. Next slide, please. So this first example is related to Log4j. It's for those not familiar, it's an open source logging library for Java that's widely used by businesses and very common in public web servers on the internet. A vulnerability was disclosed in Log4j, which allowed malicious attackers to execute code remotely on a targeted computer. The Log4j vulnerability became widely known on December 9th, 2021, with a proof of concept exploit code posted in the public internet shortly after. As a remote execution vulnerability and a widely used component on web servers, it was immediately classified as a critical vulnerability. Microsoft Threat Intelligence, or also known as Mystic, surfaced this to our hunters, allowing us to build detections and start to find the scope and scale of this threat. Following a common pattern with web vulnerabilities, within hours of a proof of concept code being posted, we started seeing mass scanning activity from both attackers and security researchers. Using the cross-domain signals from Microsoft 365 Defender, our hunters were able to track the threat as it evolved. During Log4j, this happened rapidly and in a continual loop. Hunters identified new attacks and notified impacted customers, giving us deeper understanding about the threat, leading to new and updated detections, which identified even more attacks. And this cycle continued. Our hunting enabled Microsoft to have up-to-the-minute understanding of the Log4j threat landscape. And in less than 24 hours, we published a public blog and created a Microsoft Threat Analytics article to Defender 365 customers to help all of our customers assess the impact and protect themselves. Impacted Defender Experts customers had already been identified. Microsoft Defender Experts for hunting uses behavioral hunting to detect evidence of malicious activities. In Log4j, we look for both exploit and post-exploit behaviors, enabling us to continue to track the threat as attackers shifted beyond the mass scanning towards destructive actions like ransomware. Defender Experts customers under attack continue to receive these notifications as they evolve and the detection library continue to grow. The Log4j threat highlights how critical Microsoft Defender for Experts for hunting is critical during rapidly evolving threats. With every attack and every customer notification, insights from our hunting leads feed back into our product lifecycle to help protect all of Microsoft customers. So in this next example, you can see why attacks that span multiple domains from devices to emails to cloud applications are becoming more prevalent and impactful, and how our Defender Experts for hunting can help. So these are specific to call out not just endpoints, but identities and also domains within your environment and to see holistically across here. So business email compromise attacks were, for short, BEC, started years ago as a social engineering threat where attackers tried to trick people inside a target organization to transfer money or information to them, often with devastating financial outcomes. BEC impact attacks continue to evolve and have become much more sophisticated. We recently discovered a large-scale BEC attack with attacker infrastructure hosted in multiple web services. Attackers use this cloud infrastructure to compromise mailboxes through phishing and to add forwarding rules, enabling these attackers ultimately to gain access to sensitive information about financial transactions, as well as persistence. Like many other attacks, this began with phishing emails. What was unique about these emails was that our hunters were able to correlate the specific email campaign to a prior phishing attack, causing us to take a deeper look. What started as a basic phishing investigation quickly evolved into a sophisticated cross-domain attack. Microsoft Defender Experts hunters were able to combine signals from Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office, and Defender for Cloud Application and put together their full attack story. Initial phishing email used as a common lure, claiming the user had a voicemail message and encouraged them to open the email attachment to listen to it. Once the user opened the attachment, they were presented with a fake Microsoft login page, and they provided their credentials. This gave the attackers the ability to log in directly into the victim's mailbox. They used that access to add email forwarding rules, specifically looking for emails matching financial keywords, which when found would be forwarded to the attacker's chosen location destination. There were several aspects of this attack designed to evade detection. So our hunters observed that the original phishing emails originated from multiple widely used cloud providers. The use of this attacker infrastructure spread across multiple providers, allowing the attacker to blend in with large volumes of legitimate emails, very difficult to detect. So the attackers also modified their behavior across different victims in different timeframes, trying to make it harder to identify patterns in the infrastructure they used combined with those behaviors. As much as the attackers tried to stay under the radar, our hunters were able to use depth and breadth of signal across several domains within the Microsoft 365 Defender stack to uncover the operations. Just like in the Log4j examples, our hunting was critical to provide context and recommendation actions to Defender Experts customers who were impacted, as well as add product detections for all of our customers. Whenever we detect abuse of any online service, especially Microsoft online services, we share information so that appropriate actions can be taken. In some cases, this can happen even before the campaign starts. We share information with our partners, Microsoft Digital Crimes Unit, and the Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center, as well as industry partners who may be hosting the attackers' infrastructures to help facilitate and takedowns and disrupt the attackers' infrastructure. So with that, I'll pass it on to Elisa.
Thanks, Steve. So if you want to learn more about Microsoft Defender Experts for hunting, you can visit us at aka.ms/Defender Experts for hunting. And if you want to learn, get a little deeper dive and get some help from our experts, you can go to Defender Experts for Hunting, get started at that top URL above. Heike, do we have any Q&A from the listeners?
So there is one question, and it's about licensing. If you want to cover licensing, they have a customer asking how much this costs, and it's not on their pricing tool.
I can answer that question, Elisa, unless you want.
Okay, go.
So public pricing for that, and I'm looking at the chat, looks like $3 per user per month. So we license it to kind of snap in and be predictable and be very manageable in terms of predicting how much the service will cost. So snapping it to the per user per month, $3 per user per month is the way that you can kind of think about the pricing, and that's our public pricing that's available for our customers.
Thank you. So I don't see any other questions in the tech community thread. I'm just reloading. Nope. So now, do you maybe have some questions that you usually always get, like, you know, some questions that you received in the past from presenting to either customers or the Microsoft field, or anything that you would like to bring up that you didn't cover already in your slides?
I know that one always comes up usually is some customers will ask if they can use Defender Experts for hunting if they already use another third-party MDR provider.
Great question. So when we talk about how do we hunt and the type of data that we hunt over, it's over the existing M365 Defender product. So that's Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is our EPP EDR solution, as well as Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which is our email security solution built into Office 365, as well as Microsoft Defender for Identity, which we collect telemetry from sensors from on-premises Active Directory domain controllers. And then last but not least, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, which is our CASB solution that hooks into any numerous SaaS applications, as well as Office 365 and Azure Active Directory. So those are the sources that our hunters will hunt on when we write our detections and are, you know, looking for leads to start investigating on. Now, if there are other providers or service providers that provide additional value or services on top of the existing tooling or integrate and augment your current SOC, we provide that additional visibility insight when we do hunt and find things that those MDR providers can also leverage as additional investigation points or consume those to provide their services and value on top of, whether it's further investigation or perhaps remediation. So we provide the visibility upstream, if you think about the detection funnel, to those MDR vendors, or if it's an MSSP vendor who happens to be maybe tier 1 or watching alerts or incidents that are coming off of your different security providing tools. So yes, can work hand in hand with them.
Thank you. Any other thing that you want to bring up as a question and answer?
And so, yeah, so Steve, just so we're clear, just want to confirm that Defender Experts for Hunting only hunts on Microsoft Defender data, correct? Not Microsoft Sentinel?
Correct. So yes, so we hunt directly on Microsoft 365 Defender data, which when we do talk to customers today, and you look at the estate of how much data that is ingested into a security operations organizations to have visibility across the organization, endpoint is predominantly the vast majority of that data. And so we do encompass, you know, MDE and to have visibility on endpoints. And kind of from that point of view, that data estate we do cover across Microsoft 365 Defender only today.
Good. If there's no more questions, I will refresh one last time the tech community thread. Yes, there is a question. How is access provided to the hunters to our customers' environments? Would they be part of the environment all the time? Do they get temporary accounts at times of hunting? Great question. So how do you access the data?
This is a great question. So if you think about the existing Defender products, the M365 Defender products, they collect the telemetry and they send them to your specific cloud that's tied to your tenant. So when we hypothesize and we decide that a trap is going to be written for a new threat that we're going to, or an existing threat, we write these traps and send these queries to your data where it rests within your existing location. And from there, our traps will fire. And from there, our investigations or our hunting leads will start. And so from an access standpoint, we don't need access to your environment. We don't gain access. It's simply a turnkey type solution where once the license is applied to your tenant, the hunting automatically begins and our traps begin to start setting against your tenant data, where your data exists today for your M365 Defender stack. So there's no, let's say in a good news, the enablement is uneventful. There's no access or accounts that, you know, as a customer would need to create or provision for our hunters. We do this all on the back end on behalf of the customers and then notify you through a Defender incident that Maria showed within the.
And I think important to mention here is the privacy aspect. So it's not that we see customer data and it's all pseudo-anonymized in the backend, and there will be sent a notification to everyone basically who has this pattern or something, and we don't know it's customer A or customer B that we are sending this to.
Right. So our hunts are very specific to the customer. You know, depending on the findings, we do leverage detections that we do find notable in activity in one tenant, and then be able to then build learnings around that and then replicate, you know, those learnings and look for the maybe similar threats in another tenant. So definitely we use the scale of the Microsoft customer base to maybe see something in another one tenant and then kind of scan across other tenants, right? So there's a continuous feedback loop. So when we do our detections or when we notify you in a notification, or we present things like, here's a query that we ran in your tenant for a specific GUID or identity, or maybe it's email, that is specific to your tenant. So it's not something that we found in another tenant, maybe an email or an identity that we're crossing to another tenant. Like all the notifications that we give you is particular to the data in your tenant. So it doesn't cross that boundary.
And to what I just mentioned is when we say we don't know who the customers are and all of this, this is true as long as someone is not really actively requesting a consultation with an expert, because then you basically, yes, you share your email address so that we can reach out to you and get back to you. So this is
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So for us to reach back out to you, you do have to provide a contact point. Then we'll be able to reach back out to you and start a bidirectional communication.
Yeah, and even then we don't have access to your tenant. Good. I will hit refresh again. Let's see if there's another question. Now people figured out, nope, nothing. So I think with that, if you have questions later, please don't hesitate to go still to the same link, which was aka.ms/mdexqa, and ask your question. We will continue to monitor that threat to provide you with answers. And with that, I'm going to close the call, but a few reminders. As you know, recordings and slides will be made available at aka.ms/security webinars. Again, if you're listening to this after the fact, go to aka.ms/mdexqa. And thank you, Elisa, Maria, and Steve, for today's webinar. Thank you to the rest of the team who helped answering the questions. And most of all, I want to thank all of you for being part of the community, joining us on these webinars, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.